Hello and welcome to TVB News. The Hong Kong Cyclone was held early this morning for the first time since the pandemic. But the much-anticipated event was marred by accidents in which 11 people were injured, one seriously. Jackie Lin reports.
After the accident, a participant appeared to be in a coma, requiring emergency treatment by paramedics. Several others with blood-stained faces. Some cyclists who scraped their limbs had to wait for their turn for treatment. This cyclist from the mainland said it happened when the riders were heading downhill. Some did not slow down and rammed into the railings and other participants. He said cyclists were too competitive here compared with the mainland. This Hong Kong rider described how some crashed into a traffic cone on the right and cyclists behind just fell like dominoes in a pileup. The accident happened at around 11 a.m. near the finish line outside the Shangri-La Hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui East. That's during an 8-lap run in a 3.7-kilometer circuit along Salisbury Road and the Hung Hom Bypass. The race carried on for a while after the mishap. The ambulance had to drive out of the course to send the injured to hospital. At the same spot after around 20 minutes, another accident unfolded. Only at this moment did the organizers stop the race from continuing. Leung Hong Tak, chairman of the Cycling Association, said the overall design and arrangement for the race are similar to the previous ones and fulfill safety requirements. The accident also happened on a flat course, and staff members as well as judges have coordinated well to handle the emergency situation. Meanwhile, other races from the cyclothon proceeded without much hiccup. Some overseas riders were enthused about returning to Hong Kong to take part in the event. They include the World Tour team joining the 50-kilometer race.
It was flat out from the start. The boys were going like bananas. I have to say, hats off. Yeah, it's a good scenery. Yeah, good racing.
This morning is a real pleasure for us to ride in Hong Kong with the sunset and all the population will smile a lot, and everybody is happy to ride with us.
Hong Kong has the best nature and cityscape combination in the whole world.
A total of 7 races and experiential events were held in the city's first cyclothon after the pandemic.
This is my third time to join Hong Kong Cyclothon. Yeah, and I tell my friend come to join us. The wind is very heavy up there. Yeah, it's a bit shake, but it's nice weather.
They're closed roads, and that's part of the route. I think adds to the fun of it, really. And you know, there are elements of it that look like it'll be quite fast, and a few little ramps on the bridges and things to climb. But yeah, look, I mean, the tunnels just add another dimension to it, and yeah, it should be fun.
After the race, riders were given medals for commemoration. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The chief executive of the hospital authority says the public needs to be prepared for the coming surges in COVID and winter influenza cases. Tony Ko says contingency measures are in place to cope with the surges. Memo Singhai reports.
The city remains in the midst of the summer flu surge, even though the number of cases has fallen in the last couple of weeks. Speaking on a TVB program, Chief Executive of the Hospital Authority, Tony Ko, said the public needs to be cautious about the coming winter flu surge.
This is the first winter season where we don't wear a mask. We know that in the past few years, everybody wear a mask. So naturally, the respiratory infection rates will be lower. Secondly, because in the last few years, we don't have a very big influenza surge. So most people will not have a very high antibody level or high protection against influenza.
Ko stressed the importance of vaccination.
Why I say or emphasize again and again about vaccination is because, especially for flu, This is the golden opportunity. It takes a few weeks for the vaccine to give the best protection. That's why it's very important to receive vaccination as early as possible, in particular for the children, those with chronic disease, as well as the elderly population.
Ko also said the hospital authority is ready to combat the coming surges.
We now have a very strong big data analytics system where we know the number of people coming to our emergency department, in our hospitals, the positive rates of influenza, of COVID, etc. So these are very important figures that help us to prepare our action.
Meanwhile, Ko said the manpower shortage in the public medical sector had improved after the HA's recruitment effort overseas. He added the authority will continue to recruit talents from outside of the city. Memos 9, TVB News.
A doctor said people susceptible to allergies may suffer worse reactions to bee or wasp stings than others. This after a 56-year-old beekeeper stung by a wasp on Thursday died on Saturday. Memo Singhai with more.
This is a village in Two Moon, home of the deceased beekeeper. On Thursday afternoon, police received a report from the beekeeper's wife saying her husband was stung by a wasp. The man was later found unconscious and sent to Two Moon Hospital. He was pronounced dead at the hospital yesterday. Sources say the incident happened while the man was feeding the bees. Siu Yuzhong, former president of the Hong Kong Society for Emergency Medicine and Surgery, said local bee species do not have a high venom content. However, the medic said people with an allergic constitution will react more badly after being stung. When they get stung for the first time, the symptoms are mild, such as swollen skin. If that happens again, more serious side effects will be induced due to the memory cells in the immune system, he said. Hiking expert Zhong Qingmen, meanwhile, said individuals should avoid swiping bushes with their hiking sticks. Bees or wasps will see it as provocation. Stay calm and do not move when you see those insects, he added. A similar incident happened in May, killing an employee of the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department. Memos 9, TVB News.
Chief Executive John Lee is set to deliver his second policy address on Wednesday. The city's leader offered a sneak peek with strengthening the economy among the centerpieces. In a video posted on social media, Lee showed a copy of the policy address with the title, "Strive to Improve the Economy, Plan Development, Benefit Livelihoods, and Add Happiness." He said consultation efforts during conferences and district visits over the past 3 months have helped him tap people's opinions and formulate the policy address. The weekend saw more pro-Palestinian rallies around the world. There were even protests in Israel calling for a ceasefire. David Garrett reports.
They are in Israel, but demanding a ceasefire. Rather than calls to attack Hamas in retribution for the October 7th attack, these protesters call on the Israeli government to concentrate on getting hostages released. Bring back the kidnapped, the crowds chanted. They fear an assault on Gaza will lead to the death of hostages and widespread civilian casualties. This is the US, where support for Israel has been at its strongest. In the capital, within earshot of the seat of power, these people called for a stop to the war. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Marchers striding together from the Washington Monument to the US Capitol. They shouted, "Free Palestine." The numbers were in the hundreds.
Show the support for our people in Gaza. They've been bombed and besieged for the last 2 weeks and cut off all the means of living, like waters and electricity and the basic necessity of life.
People are marching on the streets, not wanting their tax dollars to be supporting a literal genocide.
I'm not Palestinian myself. I think many people here may not be Palestinians, but we all feel for the pain and sufferings of the Palestinians. They're under occupations, they're under apartheid regime, and the whole world knows.
There were similar events across several cities in the US. That included Los Angeles, where protesters highlighted the plight of children killed and injured in the war. There have been rallies and prayers for Palestinians in New York, Texas, and other locations across America. There were also huge crowds in cities throughout Europe. In Barcelona, Spain, protesters called on the EU to do more to stop the pain being inflicted by Israel. The numbers were just as large in the Spanish capital, Madrid. The rally went into the night with cheering as Israeli flags were burned. Enormous crowds in London for the second weekend running. This woman spoke for many.
The occupiers with the Israelis to stop bombing Gaza, supply them with water, food and medicine, and stop the bombarding hospitals.
This just days after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak travelled to Tel Aviv to show the UK support for Israel.
Shame on you!
Malaysia does not support Israel. Kuala Lumpur hosted a massive pro-Palestinian rally Sunday. People congregated to endorse their country's stance. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim rejected Western pressure to condemn Hamas. This week he said Malaysia will maintain relations with the armed group. David Garrett, TVB News.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has returned to his country, pledging to run to be leader again. It is the first time he has been back since going to London for medical treatment while he was serving a sentence for corruption. The 73-year-old appeared content to be back after 4 years away. The three-time leader says he plans to run for Prime Minister for a fourth time. He was last in office in 2017. A court barred authorities from arresting him on his arrival. He will appear before a court on Tuesday, where he'll likely begin appealing his conviction. He cannot enter elections next year if a conviction still hangs over him. The former leader seems confident he can clear his name and address his supporters shortly after arriving back in his hometown, Lahore. He told hundreds of voters he would control inflation and allow the nation of Pakistan to prosper again. Back here at home, today is the first day of the implementation of the amended fixed penalty ordinance. This means heavier fines for public hygiene offenses being imposed on litter bugs. This is a wet market in Sham Shui Po. A pile of empty boxes were left on the side of a road. After a while, a man arrived to remove the boxes. Under the amended ordinance, the fixed penalty for shop front extensions and illegal disposal of construction waste or other types of rubbish will be adjusted to $6,000. Meanwhile, those who commit public hygiene offenses, including spitting and littering, will be fined $3,000. A taxi driver and a passenger were injured in an accident in Cyclon this morning. Firefighters rushed to the scene to douse the fire of the overturned taxi. The incident happened at around 8 a.m. when the cab was driving along Clearwater Bay Road. The driver is suspected to have lost control of the vehicle. The 78-year-old driver was unconscious when pulled from the car by a passerby. The 34-year-old passenger sustained an injury to the hand. 51 people have been arrested over scam cases involving nearly $100 million. The youngest suspect is 19 years old. The week-long crackdown operation by police started last Sunday. 51 suspects were apprehended in connection with money laundering and obtaining property by deception in 39 different scam cases. Some of the 119 victims were swindled with fake investment plans and phone scams. One case involved losses of some $11 million. That's the news. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye for now.